This is because these reports continue. No American politician can be elected or nominated for any position of great power unless they are first authorized by the true rulers of their country, and in return for their offices pay huge sums of money to their elite corporate masters. Now, it is important to note that the unseen elite powers that truly control the United States have done so for over a century, and are so dangerous that America's 28th President, Woodrow Wilson, said about them, and it gives a quote by Wilson. She talks about the subtle influence of these people behind the scenes. Even worse, when America's 32nd President, Franklin D. Roosevelt, went against this cabal, led at that time by Prescott Bush, the father and grandfather of 2 U.S. presidents, it nearly led to his downfall in what is called the business plot, and of which we can read, and then it goes on to talk about Major General Smedley Butler and the so-called fascist attempted overthrow of FDR. There is no evidence, however, that the current American president is going to go against this cabal. In fact, the exact opposite appears to be happening, as news from the United States shows that these elite powers are firmly entrenching themselves even further into the Washington power structure. And as we can read, a pair of prominent Seattle lawyers, both partners with the K&L Gates law firm, appear headed for the other Washington to take senior posts in the Obama administration. Jay Reich is slated to become Deputy Chief of Staff to Secretary of Commerce Gary Locke, and Will Stell is reportedly in line for a senior post overseeing fisheries and oceans. The Commerce Department has jurisdiction over the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration. And they have here, note, these files state that the importance of K&L Gates' placement of Will Stell into the oversight of the United States sea laws is to force through the U.S. Senate the ratification of the Law of the Sea Treaty, which would effectively destroy once and for all the sovereignty of the United States by effectively placing it under the control of the United Nations. To the exact reason that the elite powers ruling the United States had for so publicly eliminating Sodini, and in doing so forever destroying his credibility, these reports state that his usefulness had ended after his, Sodini's, computer program this past week transferred the quote-unquote final payment from the backers of President Obama to Bill Gates of nearly $3 billion that allowed him to become America's new figurehead leader, and which was funneled into what is called the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation. And to the timing of Sodini's elimination, these reports paint an even direr picture. As with this last payment, the power elite of the United States have accelerated their plan to eliminate from our Earth over 4 billion human beings during the next 3 years through pandemics, forced euthanasia, and total global war, and which they have decided upon during their May 24th, 2000 meeting in New York. And as we can read about, partly as reported by Britain's Times Online News Service's article titled "Billionaire Club in Bid to Curb Overpopulation, America's Richest People Meet to Discuss Ways of Tackling a Disastrous Environmental, Social, and Industrial Threat." And then it goes on to tell a little more about what they said there. To the ability of the counter-coup forces operating in the United States, mainly in their military and intelligence services, to counter the destruction of their nature, it is not known. What is known, though, is that the transfer of Obama's initial payment to this cabal of over $18 billion this past October through Turkey, and as we had reported on in our August 5th report titled "Russia Shocked Over $18 Billion Iran Payment to Obama After Failed U.S.-Backed Saudi Coup," may possibly come to light after reports from the United States are stating that one of the few remaining alive insiders into the workings of this cabal may openly testify in a U.S. federal court about the quote-unquote Turkish connection to the United States presidential election. Most unfortunately about all of these events now occurring in the United States is that its citizens have become so brainwashed that they readily suspend their logic in believing whatever their mass propaganda media feeds them, including that one of the world's most knowledgeable computer programmers making an estimated $1 million a year salary suddenly decides to become a mass killer. A further note has to be made that upon our posting of this report yesterday, August 6th, our servers were immediately attacked, and when those few who were able to see it attempted to spread it throughout the United States through various social networking and news sites, such as Twitter, they too were attacked and brought down. And according to the FSB, all of these attacks originated from the same source in the United Kingdom. And let's see. So in the past 24 hours that saw the massive suppression of this report, the American people have been repeatedly bombarded with the official story of George Sodini's death, and which is, as always, simple, at least to the simple-minded who really believe the lies they are told to believe. As for the truth, it's here in this report for anyone else to continue examining for themselves, especially in its most historical context. But in reality, the truth doesn't matter to these Americans anymore because it doesn't fit into the 140 character limit that Twitter allows. No wonder they're about to be destroyed. Now, I can see a lot of problems with that right off the bat. You know, obviously I don't think he made $1 million a year. Although he did claim in his blog he had a net worth of approximately $250,000 after debt. He lived in a rather modest home. Again, I wanted to harken back to what I said earlier about his demeanor and the way he spoke. Certainly, classic signs of social problems, which could lead one to believe that maybe he was sociopathic or even psychopathic. If someone were to examine him more closely, you might be able to determine that. But also, this could be, the sign of some kind of mind control. It's possible. That's why I wanted to put this information out there. It's possible. I don't believe it because everything that he has done shows that. But if there is a connection between the law firm and if it can be proven that he worked on computer programming, which in fact was used to steal or hide the theft of vast sums of money, and tie him to Bill Gates and all the other things that are alleged in here, then it's certainly got to cause you to wonder if he wasn't, programmed to do what he did, because his time had come and his usefulness was over, as it said. So, I don't believe it. I still think, he was a pathetic loser who just couldn't control his own life and cowardly decided to take out his frustration on women that he viewed as having turned him down and rejected him. But still, an interesting story nonetheless. Thank you. Good night.